are watching Meiju Knits Knitting Podcast. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new to me or new to here, my name is Meiju, as I said. I live in Helsinki, Finland. This is the capital of Finland, and I have been designing knitting patterns approximately 10 years now. Now I'm writing a knitting book that will be published by Line magazine, and this podcast is about my knitting life and designing life and my life in general. In the beginning of this year I decided to quit my day job and start as a self-employed person, so there is so many new things happening in my life at the moment that it's for me it's sometimes hard to keep track what I'm doing all the time, but these podcasts are kind of a vlog also for me to just to keep track what I'm doing. Last episode I had my 1 year YouTube channel celebration episode. There is still a giveaway, so if you go to my last episode and leave a comment below the video, and please also watch the video so you know what to comment, you will have time to enter the giveaway. I will choose the winners next week. I'm not going to announce the winners in this episode. This episode is part 2 of my designing process video that I did a couple of episodes back. I will try to put the link also somewhere up here to that video. So this episode is more about me answering to the questions that I got for the below the video, and also some questions that I got on Instagram, and some questions in general that have been asked from me before. So I'm talking about my designing process more thoroughly in this episode, or trying to answer your questions. But before we go to that, I like to say a few words about this cardigan that I'm wearing now. I'm not gonna stand up because I'm sitting in a chair that would be really difficult to move back because I don't have that much spare room here, and the carpet below me is not friendly for me moving things. So you can go to my Ravelry page or on my Payhip store to see more pictures of this cardigan. But this is a fingering weight, a lightweight cardigan. It's perfect spring or summertime cardigan. At least in Finland we sometimes have really cold summer days. At least if I remember it right, last summer, it wasn't the last summer, but it was a summer before that, our midsummer day was colder than the Christmas day in Finland, in Helsinki. So I still need to wear wool also at summer in Finland. So that's why I'm also knitting summer garments from wool. So there is the details in this design are those knobs on these front panels that there isn't any buttons in this pattern. In this design there are only these front bands that include these knobs or bubbles. They are integrated to the ribbing, that is twisted ribbing, as you can see. Also there are details, bubble details on the cuffs too. So otherwise it's simple stockinette stitch cardigan with raglan sleeves and some shaping actually here below. The shaping that you do here is increasing for the front panels to come a bit elongated, not that much. It comes only from the increases that I have here in the V-neck. There aren't any short rows or other difficult shaping techniques in this design. So this is available on my Ravelry store or on my Payhip store or on lovecrafts.com also. Okay, then to those questions about my designing life, I have listed them here. I have a little notebook here for me to remember the questions that you asked. I will begin from the question that was entered below the last video, and that was that do I create one pattern at a time, or do I begin to think the next one while I'm knitting the pattern that I'm knitting at the moment, the current project? And the answer is yes, I will start to think about the next pattern or next design when I'm knitting the current project. Actually now I'm working the book. I've already have kind of rough sketches or preliminary ideas of the designs that are going to come to the book, but as I probably told you in the previous episodes, when I received the yarn that I'm going to use for the design that I have, from which I have the preliminary thought, I have to swatch, and at least for my first design for the book I did 3 swatches. I actually unraveled one swatch, and then I swatched again, and then I did larger swatch because I didn't like how the stitch pattern that I had in mind in the first place, how it behaved with the yarn. So kind of what I want to say is that the design that I had first in my mind changed while doing the swatch, and sometimes now that I have all the designs that I'm thinking for the book are in my head in a way, and they are somehow also in the paper, I'm still open to change them in a way that while I'm continuing swatching the designs, I'm open to all changes that come to my mind. So, but when I'm doing a normal designing, outside the book, the independent patterns that I'm going to publish on Ravelry, I will definitely start to think the next one while I'm knitting my current project. And usually I also think about I have more ideas than I have time to knit, I think. And at least when I was having a full-time job which hadn't have any relations to my knitting job, I sometimes had so many ideas that I was kind of suffering because I didn't have time to knit those ever. And I think I don't have that time in this life to knit those designs that I have in mind ever. But yeah, so sometimes when I'm knitting one project, at least a couple of weeks ago when we were in Ylläs with my family and we were driving up north to Lapland, Finland, and I was knitting this one design for the book, and I kind of while knitting that design, I kind of realized that, oh my god, I could have done this way, but what if I had done this that way or knit this that way? Then this wouldn't be this design, and I have to use that idea for the next design. I kind of sometimes invent ideas while I'm knitting something that I'm knitting at the moment. So for me, thinking about the next project is kind of a continuous process at the moment, at least, and I think that at least now I'm in some kind of creative state. I'm trying to find the right word, but I'm in creative state at the moment in a way that it sometimes makes sleeping difficult. At least for me nowadays, at least the past 2 or 3 weeks, I think, the past 2 weeks at least, all the best ideas that I get will come to my head in the evening when I'm trying to go to sleep and when lights are off and I'm like kind of I have to start to sleep. And I have designed a couple of designs while sleeping, while in sleep or almost falling asleep, and luckily I remember some of those next morning, so I can take notes. But recently I have started to think that should I take a paper and pencil near to my bed or beside my bed, so I could write those ideas down right away. But then I have been thinking that I could never sleep if I would do that, because I'd had to put the lights on and my husband is sleeping beside me, so it wouldn't be fair for me to make notes lights on while he is sleeping and I'm kind of trying to sleep also. So yeah, so the short answer is yes, I always think about the next design while I'm knitting the current project, and I'm also always kind of thinking about new designs on a daily basis, I think. But also I'm thinking about the current designs and the designs that I'm going to start in a few days in more detailed way, in a sense that I have to make decisions how I'm going to cast on and what stitch patterns I'm going to use and that so on. So I have kind of all level of designing processes or all level of thinking processes in my head while knitting and designing. Okay, then there was a question about creating patterns and how do I create patterns particularly. And first of all, I don't want to go too detailed on my creating process, because I think I'm quite effective in creating and I'm quite professional in creating in a sense, but I don't want to go too detailed to that process, because I think it's more of a like business secret for me, I think. But still, then there was a question also what grading means and what tech editor does. And well, first of all, I could tell you about grading. Grading basically means that if I knit my own sized sample, I have to grade it, which means calculating the amount of stitches for other sizes that I'm going to write the pattern on. So if my size is small or medium, I usually nowadays grade my patterns from size extra small to 5 extra large. So that's kind of a size range from the bust circumference of 75 centimeters to like 160 centimeters. In inches, that is, I'm bad with inches because I have to always kind of think them through, because I know exactly from centimeter. It's in inches, like it's bust 30, from 30 inches to bust 62, and that's the size range that I can write most of my patterns. Some cable designs are difficult to grade to very large sizes or to very small sizes, because then you would have to change the pattern. For example, if you have a lot of cable panels, then it would mean that you would have to change that pattern, and then you have to think the whole pattern before you grade, and still think it to be kind of that still you still have to think that it would make sense in all sizes, because for larger sizes you have to have more cables in it, and for smaller sizes you have to have less. You have less stitches where to put or your cable panels. So it's kind of you would almost have to write each size as an own pattern or own individual text in a way. So where was I? How did I came to this this conclusion? Yes, yeah. So basically, grading means calculating stitches, the amount of stitches needed for each size, and also when grading, you have to think about the whole design and how it suits to each size. So if you have a raglan design like this, it's much more easier than the cable cardigan design or something like that. So yeah, and then there was actually a question about that would a design be would it be completely different design, since you have to kind of change the amount of stitches or change the amount of cable panels or something like that. Would it be a different pattern then? And well, I don't have an answer for that, but yes and no. If you manage to put all the design elements that are important for that design, if you manage to put them in one pattern and one design, and you manage to grade it for the sizes that you have decided to grade, then it would be one design. But of course, there are sometimes situations that a cardigan could be graded to larger sizes that a designer had done. I have been in a situation that I have graded larger sizes, but I haven't had any test knitters for those larger sizes. So I have decided that I can't publish the pattern because no one hasn't knitted, so I couldn't be sure that it would be okay in those larger sizes too. So my reason for not publishing or not having published larger sizes before is mostly because I haven't had test knitters for those larger sizes. Yeah, so it's kind of up to a designer if it's a pattern or not. If the pattern have to be unique enough to be a pattern, but still there aren't any rules for using some stitch pattern that some other have used before, because everybody can invent that you can put a bubble like this in the knitting. I just wanted to use the bubbles this way in this design. So it's designing is finding unique ways to use stitch patterns mainly, I think. Then there was a lovely comment about V-neck tops, that I should design a V-neck top. And yes, I have done a lot of V-neck cardigans, but I haven't actually done a V-neck top, and I should do that definitely. I just somehow skipped it somehow. Maybe I will do one V-neck design for my V-neck pullover for the book, maybe. Then there was this question of what does text editor do? Well, for me, a text editor will. I have used two or three text editors, and I have one regular text editor. And then of course, when I have published some designs in some magazines or whatever, they have their own text editors that will check the pattern through. But anyway, what my text editor will do is that she will go through the pattern that I have written. So I will provide the written pattern for her, and she will because I always write my patterns first in English, so she will go through the English grammar and typos and texts and everything that I have wrote proper English, because English is not my first language, although I have written so many patterns that I have my own style of writing, and I kind of use the same phrases all over again, so it's kind of easy for me. It's much more easier for me to write the pattern in English, because I think that Finnish knitting language is quite awkward and kind of there is too long way to say the things in Finnish, so I like the English knitting language much better. But for me, the text editor will check the grammar, the typos, then she will check all the numbers that they are correct. So if I said that you have to cast on this many stitches, then you have to increase this many stitches and you will end up this many stitches. She will check that those numbers will add up. So she will kind of double check my math, and usually my math is correct, although there might be typos, since when I'm grading, I I can't create to my text editor right away, so I have to write my math to my pattern text editor. So that's kind of the place where typos might happen. So she will check the grammar, the typos. Then sometimes she also checks that I have all the abbreviations that I should have in the pattern. She will sometimes suggest that this would be a better way to say things, or she will say that there is some other or better way to say some things, or she will ask that does this mean that, and you could say this, and kind of for me tech editing is something that would save my time when test knitting, and it's something that then the test knitters don't have to think about all the typos and find them, and usually there are the test knitting process is much more easier for me when I have used the tech editor. However, sometimes my tech editor don't find all the mistakes that can be found during the test knitting, or after the pattern is published. There is always something that might go that might left unseen in a way that I don't know this, my tech editor don't know this, and test knitters don't know this. So there might be something weird that might stay in the pattern. There haven't been that many things, and usually there is the problem for me is that in my Finnish language version there might be some English in it, which I can correct later, of course, but it's something that might leave there in sometimes. So for me, the using of text editor, it kind of saves my time because it double checks the math and double checks the grammar, and I have problems with English articles. I sometimes don't use a or n or the, or I use wrong prepositions like in or for or from or at or in or on. So it's I don't hear from the language when which preposition should be used in this case. So that's something that my tech editor will check. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching this episode. I believe that in the next episode I'm talking more about how my designs for the book are going, and I will choose the winner of the giveaway in my last episode. Thank you for watching, and see you again. Bye!